Hi, welcome to this month's version of Inspiring Individuals. On behalf of Star Property, I would like to welcome Mr. Zhariff Afandi. He's a renowned author and motivational speaker. He's also a life coach who's just written this book called SOS, which came out late last year. Instead, Zhariff was born without arms, but that has not stopped him in any way. And we are having the pleasure of actually having him here today to share with us his story and to share with us his vision as to where life can be if we just are working hard towards it and being very clear as to what we want to achieve. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, man. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, mutual. I just wanted to touch very quickly about this book. What inspired you to actually write this book?
Well, I think I've always wanted to write a book. I think from the day that I could appreciate books, I think most people who read books probably dreams of writing a book as well, right? And so I've had that dream of wanting to write a book for many years. And in fact, it was my sixth real attempt at writing a book, actually. I tried earlier when I was in my early 20s, didn't probably have enough story and wisdom, right? Tried again in my late 20s, right, after I got back from Aceh and doing the whole tsunami relief thing. Still not enough wisdom, I guess, right? And tried it again and again, right? And every time the universe didn't allow me to finish it, because it would either be like my laptop would die or like my pen drive would be missing, right?
Oh, okay.
And so tried it a few times, right? And finally, late last year, I completed my book, right? Because early last year, I was adamant that I wanted to write a book. I was actually going through some difficult moments in my life, actually, relationship issues, you know, and also just a whole. I went through an existential crisis, I guess, of who am I, what do I want to do, this whole meaning of life thing, right? And I, in fact, went and isolated myself in a jungle for a while to think about things. And what came about that was, I need to write this book, right? And so the book was actually a way for me to heal myself at that time, reflect back my life at that time. And as I did that, you know, I was hoping that, cool, I finally have the fuel I felt, right, to write this book. And I did, I guess. Yeah.
Wow. So if I were to be able to summarize it, it's actually a book that took a long time from gestation to delivery.
Yeah.
And it's on personal reflection as
Totally.
well as inward examination.
It took me about 8-9 months to actually write the book, I guess, and complete it, right? And I gave myself a deadline. I always give myself these deadlines. It's very important to kind of have a set target, right? And every now and then during my birthday, I try to give myself something awesome, right? Like when I was 29 years old, before this, when I dreamt that I wanted to have my own company by the time I was 30 years old. This was a dream I had in college. And on my 30th birthday, I gave myself a company. Yeah, because when I was at 28, 29, I decided to quit my job. And I found some clarity at that period of time of what I wanted to do, and so I made the move to set up my own thing. And I consciously decided, sure, I'm going to start this on my birthday and give myself a birthday present of my company at that time. This was like 10 years ago, right? Or it's 8 years ago. And same thing with this. So I wanted to make sure that I finished the book in time to give myself a birthday present, right? And so I finally just sat down and did it.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, the synopsis of the book, it says, let me see, it's a reflection of your own quest in seeking your authentic self, inspiring others with real-life experiences, and your lifelong journey of learning.
Yep.
And the main soundbite I've gotten from sources says that readers will be able to pick up useful tools and knowledge about the power of inner self, ikigai, self-actualization, visualization, and inspiring stories that can help them move on by reading it. I'm just curious, ikigai, what does that mean and how does it apply?
Well, ikigai is a Japanese concept called life purpose. I mean, it means life purpose. Just to kind of backtrack a little bit, I guess when I first started the book, I didn't want to just write an autobiography of my life, right? I mean, I know I went through various amazing adventures and misadventures, right? And it was great, right? But I didn't want to only write an autobiography of myself because I'm not like 80 years old, and I probably wouldn't fit a whole book, right? But I also felt like there's a lot of knowledge out there, a lot of information out there, a lot of perspective of how to live and how to live well, right? And it was also one of the reasons why I studied psychology, was to understand human beings and understand how we are. So Ikigai was one of those fairly central principles that I had lived by. Especially, I came across again Ikigai when, early in the year last year, when I was having a very hard time in life, when I was going through this whole existential relationship crisis as well. And while I was in that jungle, I was in a jungle for a month.
Wow.
I was in a day or 2 days. I literally parked myself in a jungle for a month. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
2 days is already beyond my comprehension. A month.
So I parked myself in a jungle for a month, and I came across the thought of Ikigai again.
Okay.
And I remembered the 4 questions that Ikigai presented, right? So Ikigai is this Japanese philosophy of life purpose. Iki means life, gai means purpose, right? Actually, it also means pearl, so it's something of value, right? So Ikigai essentially is one of those philosophies that you can kind of see why Japanese people are the way they are culturally, where whatever they do is great, right? They have like, everything seems so meaningful. Or even when they're folding their clothes or when they're cooking, it looks so meaningful when they do that, right? And it kind of extends all the way from different age groups, from their childhood all the way to you seeing 90-year-old karate teachers. You still see like 100-year-old ladies being part of the community, right? So Ikigai is one of those approaches and ideas, right, of living life with purpose. So it centers around 4 main questions, which is what do you love? What are you good at? What can you be paid for? And what does the world need from you? So obviously, when we think about our meaning of life, it can be a whole jumble of things, right? I mean, sometimes it's crazy what questions of life are, right? But Ikigai puts it simply with those 4 questions and finding balance within those 4 questions. Because a lot of people, they tend to be heavy on one end, and then say for instance, you can even do the stuff that you love, but if you don't find meaning in it, it also doesn't feel complete. You could get paid a whole lot, but if you're not doing the things that you love, or it has no meaning, and you don't find it any purpose to the community or the world around you, also doesn't work as well. So Ikigai gives you this perspective of finding the central balance of the things that are important, which are those 4 questions.
The sweet spot of life.
The sweet spot, yeah, exactly, right? The understanding that you need balance. At the end of the day, everything you need, even when you're standing up, you need balance. And even as I I wrote a book, and it's about sorting things out, and like I surf, for instance, right? And in surfing or bodyboarding, you need balance, right? And it's about finding that sweet spot for riding the waves.
Yeah. You can't be either too heavy on one end or the other.
Exactly. So Ikigai gives you this perspective of finding balance in life through simply these 4 questions.
At what stage in your life did you come across saying, I need to find that balance, failing which I may just go off the road or get derailed? At what stage in life? Was it like during school days or when you started working?
Yeah, I think I've gone through, like most people, various phases in life, right? I think when you're a child, or when you're an adolescent, or when you're a teenager, of course those are developing years, right? You're still very much in the developing the self, the concept of your intellect, right? Your personality, your interests, your passions. You're still developing those things, right? And so, you go through this, and then in my adulthood, I had various phases in my adulthood life as well, right? Just finishing college, getting a job, finding a career, building a business, failing a business, getting back on the horse. So I think each phase I had to go through had its own reflective phase, right? And each phase I had to learn from both the amazing glory and success that I had gone through and achieved, as well as the pain and failures and and yeah, just pain and failures that that I've experienced, right? And those become my teachers in life, right? Those become the lessons in life.
What drives you towards your goals? I mean, what pushes you or focuses you on what needs to get done to get to where you want to go? What do you hold?
I think ever since I was small, funny enough, I never really understood the concept of disability until I was an adult. So ever since I was small, I thought we were just the same. We're all different, yet we're all the same. And I always believe that because of that, we are all more than capable to live the best life that we can. Right? It doesn't matter how you are, right? You are everyone is capable to live the best that they can. And I was very blessed to be able to live in a family that was enabling, right? I was in an environment that allowed me to explore and develop myself, right? And because of that, I think that allowed me to grow this mindset that I believe that I could do anything and that I set my mind on, right? I believe that anyone could do whatever it is that they want and they believe in, regardless. And so not having hands didn't obviously stop me from living a good life. Even when I was small, I needed to learn how to be independent first, right? First things first, I needed to understand the basics of life. I needed to understand how to put my pants on, right? I needed to understand and learn how to switch on lights. I needed to understand how to take the cookie jar up the shelves, right? And then that progressed to needing to understand how to write, right? And of course, the world is built generally for people with arms and legs, right? What we term as normal, right? And so I had to be creative on things because things are, like switching on the light, right? Or putting in, I can't use my hands, and so obviously I have to think about how to do it. And so that resonated all the way to adulthood life, where I believe that, yes, we all can do whatever it is that we set our mind to and whatever it is that we believe in and whatever it is, what goals that we have, right? Just as long as we just do it, right? And so,
Well, I read your book, and in your book you had a lot of experiences that you've actually encountered and helped you propel to where you are. And one of them you were talking about earlier was your wanting to go to Aceh to do a documentary. And that was somewhere in distant past that only came to happen only towards the later part of your adulthood or maybe young adult life?
When I was in early college days or late high school, I wanted to do documentaries, and I was always fascinated with Aceh for some reason. And then suddenly 2004 tsunami happened, right? And that gave me the opportunity. Not really gave me, I took the opportunity. In fact, nobody wanted to send me there, right? I was rejected with every organization, and I said, I want to go and help and volunteer. Nobody wanted to send me and my friend there, but we figured out a way. It was a very rebellious way of kind of like, we were those rebel volunteers who came in and helped.
It sounds as though if someone says no, you find a way.
Yes, exactly. And I always believe that it's like water, like I said earlier, it's like water. I think flexibility of the mind is always important, and for me flexibility is extremely important, because I need to be flexible with my legs for one thing, right? If I'm not flexible with my body, for instance, then I'm going to be very difficult to move, right? I wouldn't be able to eat, right? I wouldn't be able to wear my clothes if I wasn't flexible with my body. And it's the same thing with my mind. If I wasn't flexible in my mind, then I wouldn't be able to adapt and maneuver in life. And in fact, I think that came very early on when my parents insisted that they did not have too many special fittings in the house, right? And they chose to not put any prostheses on the hands, right? Things like that. And they just thought I could handle life, right? And so that perspective, I think, allowed me to be more adaptive. And so I like to travel alone and things like that, and I have to figure out how to wear my pants, I have to figure out how to do things, right? And so not only my body needed to be flexible, my mindset and my heart set needed to be flexible as well. So like water, right, where water can maneuver in any place, it takes shape of its environment. And even that, it doesn't restrict itself with how it is, right? If it's not liquid, it can be what do you call that? In gas form, right? Or
Yeah.
in
Solid form, and
exactly,
ice, things like that. Yeah.
or ice, right? And so, like water, right? It's very important for us to be able to adapt in life.
Okay. How have these lessons helped you with your business? I mean, when you look at business in Malaysia and you're running your own business and company per se, you're up against other contenders who are also trying to get the same business or trying to get the same business that you are trying to vie and pitch for as well. How do you pitch and secure the business?
I think I've had many phases in business. I think from working for a business and working for organizations to starting my own business, failing my own business, starting back again, and then being hired as a CEO of an agencies, and then going back into the top again, and then quitting all that as well. Right, I had this whole existential sense that I didn't want to do this anymore. Right. But I realize now, after different phases in my life, right, as far as business is concerned, I think one of the most important things in business is clarity, right? Clarity of what do you really want to do, and that's really in life, right? Like, a lot of people, they feel, okay, I want to make money, for instance, right? But making money isn't the only obvious kind of like goal that we need to have, right? So for me, in terms of running a business, a lot of people, of course, when you do anything, whether it's a business or a project or an initiative, you want it to work, right? And so you do the best that you can. Obviously, you have to plan. Obviously, you have to have clarity in what you want to achieve, right? But the most important that I figured among all this is that even if you achieve or even if you don't, right, you have to realize that it's not just you that's doing it. It's like, once you understand that you're part of this bigger universe, right, where we're all connected within a system of things, because when you sell something, you need someone to buy it, right? And you also need to market it, and so you need people involved in the marketing part as well. You need everything to come together, and for that to happen, I believe it's like that understanding of that understanding and awareness of things around you is very important. And so being in business or even in life, right, it's very important to be aware.
So having great clarity or spending the time to make sure that you are clear about what you want.
Yep.
And making sure that what you want is ecological, so you satisfy the 4 quadrants of Ikigai.
It has to be sustainable, whatever they're thinking. It has to be viable, but it also can be crazy as well, right? I think a lot of people, we tend to limit ourselves in a box of what we and also other people think you can or can't, right? But I believe potential is limitless, right? Human beings, for one, have an unlimited potential to do amazing good and amazing bad.
Absolutely.
As well, right?
Yeah.
And we can achieve amazingly and we can fail miserably as well, right? But it's about moving forward. It's just about doing things, right? Going through life and just doing things, and I think having a belief is one thing. It's very important to have develop a belief that you can do things, right? But on top of having beliefs as well is also maneuvering with the right tools, with the right methodologies. So it's important to learn. It's obviously important to be able to study how things are, right? Whether or not it's a business course or whether or not it's through mentors or whether or not it's just learn. Learning is very important. It's the building blocks of being able to do things, knowledge.
I'm curious, what's on your bookshelf?
A few things, actually. I'm reading right now. I just got the $1 Billion Whale.
Okay.
I'm finishing off a book by Sadhguru.
Okay.
I'm finishing off one of Sadhguru's books, and also I just got also his inner engineering book, which is really cool.
On average, how many books do you finish in a year?
Not
Seriously?
nearly as much as I want to. Not nearly as much as I want to.
since
I finish maybe a book every couple of months.
Okay.
All right, so maybe I get like 4, 5, 6 books
Okay.
a year.
Well, with
Nearly
your
not as much as I
teaching and
should.
motivating
Yeah.
talks, appearances, I mean, even more time is going to be funneled down that path to touch other people's life, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I've gone through numerous phases, right? I think when in the beginning of my life, I wanted to achieve a lot, and so I was willing to do what I thought was needed, right? And so, you push and push, and I pushed and pushed, and I achieved, right? And at the same time, I pushed and pushed, and I failed as well, and I went through numerous cycles of that. And one thing I've learned, most importantly, after numerous cycles of success and defeats and failures and glory, right, is that at the end of the day, what most matters is for you to just be, right? We end up, because we want to do so many things, right? And that's only natural as well. We want to do so many things. But after a while, we get consumed by the things that we want to do, that we forget to just be. Right? And so in business, this is where it's going to go crazy. It sounds a little bit crazy that now I realize that I want that. Before this, I was living in this mode of expectation. Right? I wanted to achieve, I wanted to be successful, I wanted to do great, right? And all that is not wrong, but with the thing about expectations, it's very easy to be consumed by expectations. Right? And I realized that there was a lot of projects and work that I was doing that, the more I was expecting and the more I was pushing, not necessarily the more success I was getting. Right? And but on the other side of things, when I took a whole different approach, where instead of expecting things to happen, expecting the success, I decided to just have no more expectations and just let the universe be as it is and be grateful. Right? And being grateful and letting the universe be doesn't mean you lie down at home and sleep and allow the universe to be, because the universe won't be anything if you're sleeping at home, right? You still need the clarity to do things. You still need to put in the work. You still need to have the knowledge and understanding of things. But with all that also, then at the end you just realize you're just grateful to have all those things, and you're grateful to go through the life that you're going through. Then you realize that success and failures are the same thing. It's just life. Right? And so, by having that perspective, for me, that's enabled me to really cruise through life amazingly. Because, yes, I fail time after time as well, but I've also achieved amazing things as well. And even now, more so. Right? Now I see that after the many cycles of things, things really are coming in place amazingly. Right? I was just thinking about how I dreamt in college that I wanted to live a life where I was doing the things that I love, which was I wanted to write books, I wanted to travel, I wanted to do films and documentaries, I wanted to engage the world, right? And experience cultures, and hopefully teach and inspire people. That was what I wanted. That's what I dreamt of back in college. And today, I'm doing exactly that. So it's crazy.
So what are you working on right now? What kind of projects are you working on right now?
Well, I just finished this book, right? So this is a book I just published on my birthday, right? Actually, a week after my birthday. Actually, the launch day was supposed to be my birthday, but the distributor MPH couldn't get the event on that day, and so we did it a week after, right? So then after the book, I'm now attached to this group, this BAC education group. They're the ones behind helping me publish this through Faceberry publication. And so we're doing a lot of really amazing things. I've synergized amazingly with the group there. And this is the thing, the way I synergized with this group really was the embodiment of this approach, right? I came in with a whole new entire approach where, like previously, I would obsess about writing proposals and putting in the detailed numbers and putting in the detailed mechanism of how to do things, and then really hope that it jadi, right, that it could go, and then I'd go and with full expectation, right? And some cases it would go very well, but in most cases it wouldn't. And I've taken a whole different approach where I have plans. I still develop the necessary game plan. That's very important. I still share the necessary goals, but with clarity now. Now I decide that, because once you move away from expectations, the clarity comes into play, right? And with the clarity, even when you share things, I don't feel the need anymore to give like a 10-page proposal anymore with super detailed things, right? And because there's no more and you put a timeline in and constantly get disappointed by not being able to achieve those timelines, right? And instead, I just take it where this is the game plan, this is the big goal, these are the small ways to kind of get there. Now the universe will just be, and it'll just pave its way, because you don't know what will happen tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Right? You just have a plan, and that's great, but then you leave it to fate, right? You leave it to, in Malay we call takdir, right? And you leave it to the universe to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, because it needs to align at the end of the day.
Wow.
Yeah,
I understand that you have a young daughter as well.
I do.
And I'm actually very curious in terms of when I read the book, when I found out you had a daughter, how do you help her with, seeing futures, planning for the futures, goal setting,
Yep.
goal achievement? I mean, having such a focused father, how does that happen? I mean, we talked about being pushy and being pushed.
Yep.
That's separate
Just,
things.
yes, exactly.
So how do you do this?
I think there's some interesting things now that I'm a grown-up, right? I mean, to begin with, I realized being a grown-up is difficult, man. Right? It ain't easy being a grown-up, right?
Okay.
That's one thing I realized. And we make it even more difficult by ourselves, through our expectations, right? And then now that I moved from being a grown-up to being a parent, that was another phase in being a grown-up, right? And being a parent also is not easy, but it's amazing. It's really one of the most amazing things that we have as a human being, is the fact that we can procreate, obviously, and we can appreciate the parenthood, right? The whole idea and concept of parenthood, which is bringing up a child, right? And obviously, everyone wants to bring up a child who is well and healthy and successful in life and does great in life, and that's every parent wishes only for the best for their child, right? And I'm no different, obviously, right? But it's also quite interesting to see as well, because I don't have hands, and so my daughter has hands, which is pretty much what they call normal, I guess, right? She's cute as hell, right? And she's 5 years old, and just to see, first things first, how she deals with that, not about how she deals with it, but how she relates to other people, because she's in school. Kids will go, how come your daddy don't have hands? Hey, your daddy don't have hands. Oh my God, your daddy don't have hands. Right? And so she just has to kind of like, the way she deals with it is so cool. It's like, yeah, that's my daddy. He doesn't have hands, but he's cool. He can do things. And I'm here listening to her trying to explain to her friends. It's pretty
well
cool,
done.
right? It's really quite amazing. And that's first, I think that's a really amazing lesson to be able to teach my child how to deal with things,
Okay.
right? So vicariously, without me having to teach her, she's learning how to deal with life, how to approach things, right? She doesn't get angry about it, She kind of just like she'll just play cool over it. Guys, don't be dumb, right? He's cool, right? And that's really cool. And so that's one part. And another part, of course, is bringing a child up who is healthy, both mentally and physically, of course, as well. So I try to encourage my daughter to do things. I try to not discourage her from exploring, right? And it's very important to, of course, teach values, to be there, of course, and teach the necessary values, right? Honesty, sincerity, right? But I try to just, I push her to do things. Like, for instance, from the age of 2-3 years old, she was already exposed to things like horse riding, rock climbing, zip lining, gymnastics.
Okay.
But I try to not over also, today's parents, we are very blessed. Today's parents are extremely spoilt for choice, right? There are robotics and you can teach babies and kids apps and things like that, which I think sometimes is a little bit too crazy and ridiculous as well. But for me, my approach is very simple, is to be able to give and create an enabling environment for my daughter to be the person that she is meant to be. That's not up to me to determine that. She will determine what she was meant to be. The universe will determine what she was meant to be, right? And my job and our role as parents is simply to provide the enabling environment for them to grow and develop. Not to dictate, not to be pushy, what they should or should not be doing, how they should or should not be acting or behaving, because these are things that kids will learn. I learned the way I learned as well. I was very fortunate that my parents didn't bubble wrap me. I was very fortunate that my parents didn't discourage me from exploring and doing things. Of course, they'd be always scared, and there's certain things that go, please don't try that. But okay, if you really want to do it, sure, right? So it's very important for parents to be enabling for their kids to grow and develop, and that's something I'd like to be able to teach my daughter as well, so that she can be the best person that she can. It's not really up to me to determine how she will be, right? But it is very important for me to provide, or for us as parents, to provide that enabling environment for them to grow.
Oh.
Mm.
Well, in the closing sentences, maybe I could just ask you maybe your top 3 thoughts on certain topics. Like, for instance, if I were to ask you what is your recipe for success, or what are the top 3 things that would contribute towards your success in your life, what would you say they would be?
I think the first things first is this whole idea of not being afraid. I think we tend to live through this life with a lot of fear. We're afraid of people. We're afraid of being embarrassed. We're afraid of failing. We're afraid of making an ass out of ourselves, right? We're afraid of so many things, right? And it's really sad, and it sucks to live in fear, because, for me at least, I realized that if I was anchoring my life on fear, I wouldn't be able to do 3/4 of the things that I've done, right? Which then would not enable me to be the person I am today. And it's the same thing with my parents. If my parents were afraid, if they were afraid to show me out in the world, if they were afraid that I wouldn't be able to cope in life, it's the same thing. I wouldn't be where I am today, right? So I always felt like the most important thing in life is to not live with fear, right? Being afraid, of course, to some degree is important as well. You need that, for survival. If you see a tiger, obviously you're going to be afraid and run away, right? But in life, how many times do we actually see tigers? What are we afraid of, really, right? So I think that's really important, to be able to not be afraid of things. And so I've always just given things a go, right? Whether it was, I remembered horse riding at 8 years old, parasailing at that age as well, giving a go at scuba diving, right? And I didn't want to allow what people seems as limitations, right? I mean, people think not having hands limits you, but we don't have a lot of things as well. A lot of people have a bunch of things, and a lot of people don't have a bunch of things, right? Some of us are tall, short, right? Some people don't have the height. Some people have the height, but it doesn't matter what you don't have, because a lot of people also don't have different things as well. But I always try to focus on, what do you have, right? What other things can you harness? And even if you don't have whatever it is, you can always overcome it as well, right? The lack of arms doesn't stop me from living a really great life, because I feel like I've got a good brain, right? I've got a healthy body, right? I got strong legs, right? So why should the fact that I don't have hands stop me from living a great life? And it's the same thing with people. Some people might not have a lot of money or grew up very poor. Why should that stop them, right? There's a lot of people who succeed and kind of overcome that. Richest people in the world not necessarily were born with a silver spoon, right? And so, I take these lessons in life and I learn. Yeah. So of course, not living in fear, giving it a go is really important. And another thing is, I think from a very early age, I also found the importance of learning and understanding.
Okay.
I think this is a very important aspect of being a human being, is the ability to learn. Learn lessons in life, learn knowledge, right? Learn things, right? And this is something we don't really think about a lot, because we're so occupied with fear. We just want to work, or we just want to do, and I just need to make sure that I don't screw up life, right? And everybody's so afraid of that, right? That they don't live to learn. They just want to live to survive. And we're a lot more than survivors. We're not just here to survive. I believe human beings are these creatures that are here to grow, develop, and do great things.
Brilliant.
Right?
Wow. I think your 3 lessons of mastery over fear: be thankful for what you have and grow from there. And lastly, making sure that you're very clear and just getting on with it and not stopping.
Life is full of uncertainty, for sure. There's going to be, because you can't control anything beyond yourself. You can't control the weather. You can't control electricity. You can't control even another person, right? Let alone a whole group of people. You can't even control another person. So what you can control is yourself.
Okay.
right? And once you
Absolutely.
understand that, understanding that, yeah, there's no point controlling the world. The most important thing is about
Controlling
controlling yourself. Yeah.
Maybe I can ask you a really dumbed down question,
Mm.
and this will actually help the viewers that I
Sure.
hope are looking for a solution out of their predicament.
Yeah.
When you're in the doldrums, the downest of downs,
Mm.
what singular thought did you use or action that you take upon yourself to say, I need to move on. That's it. I need to move on. What do I do?
I think I've both developed and learned methods to overcome things.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the fact that, growing up with our arms means that you have to deal with people staring at you, people having judgment, people rejecting what you think, how you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, I've developed a number of set skills, I believe, right, that is really useful in life.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, creativity to me is not just something that you draw.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about, coming up with something new. It's a way of life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I had to be creative because, the world was built for people with arms, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever I did, I needed to figure things out, right, in a different way. And it's the same thing then as I grew up, and that developed how I see things today. There's always different ways to do things. In other words, it's about not being too rigid in your mind.
Mm.
So being fluid is extremely important. Fluid in body, fluid in mind,
Mm-hmm.
and fluid in spirit,
Mm.
right? Meaning that you're capable to adapt and be the best regardless of the situation. Being happy regardless of the situation, because you're capable to do it, right? And so those were very important lessons for me to kind of like learn. Another thing is what I learned recently as well is this whole being connected with yourself is very important. We have these phases in our life where we're so disconnected from our true self. We get consumed by people around us, by society, right, about what we should or should not be, that we forget about what's really important for ourselves. Because the only person that has answers for our own life is not a psychologist, it's not your mom, it's not your dad, it's you, yourself. You have the answers for yourself. But it's just a matter of, are we looking at the right place? Are we looking with the right way? Right? And so I think this is very important for us to be able to understand and reflect. Doing things like, just closing our eyes and connecting with ourselves, right? Because we tend to see things outside. We tend to want to be validated by the outside world, that, we need things to be happy. I need a new phone to be happy. I need to do this to be happy. And I've learned that actually, the greatest of great people don't need this. Yeah, I mean, even like once a person becomes a billionaire, for instance, right? They go like, I've learned a lot of very successful people have a stoicism kind of philosophy. This is all new. This is something that's currently trending. I see online, right? This whole, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, they all have this stoicism philosophy, and it just makes sense because if you can buy a billion Big Macs or a billion burgers, are you gonna eat a billion burgers? You can't eat a billion burgers. You're gonna only have to eat one burger anyway. You can't like get in a billion cars, right? So it's about kind of being true to your inner self and what is authentic in your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well done.
So
Well, thanks so much for spending your time to share your thoughts with us today.
thank you for having me. Really
It's
enjoyed
a great
it.
conversation.
Yep.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of Inspiring Individuals. We had a great fortune of having Zhariff Afandi here with us today. And check out the book that is already in MPH called
Yes.
SOS.
And another thing is just a special thing right now, right, on this show. If they like this post,
Okay,
if
like
they
this
like
post,
this
yeah?
video right here, right, I'll give 3 books.
3 books away.
Yeah,
you
it'll
heard
be
it
like
from the man himself.
exactly, lucky draw kind of thing. But
Yep,
I'll
yep.
choose among those 3, right?
Well done.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again very much for tuning in, and we'll catch you at the next edition of Inspiring Individuals. Thank you very much.